Salt brine is a valuable tool for fighting winter weather. There are a couple of different brine makers we use across the state. Pay attention to the process of testing the brine solution. The brine maker at your location may be different than the one we show in this video. One of the first things to do when preparing to make salt brine is to do a site inspection. Look at the overall site to make sure there are no visible leaks. Check the hoses, valves, and fittings. Make sure all the valves are in the off position. The next step is to take off the fitting caps and hook up the hoses to the brine maker. This crew color-coded the outlets and inlets on the hose fittings to make it easier to hook up the hoses to the correct positions. Once all of the hoses are hooked up, turn on the power and close the bottom hopper. Secure the locking pins on the hopper. The next step is to add salt.
To me, it's having a good quality salt. We get salt in, we get coarse loads, we get fine loads, it all gets mixed up as it's put in. But the coarser the salt, the better, the faster you can make brine. The finer the salt, the longer it takes you to do it. You can be there 4 or 5 hours making 2,000 gallons with fine salt. You could be there 2 or 3 hours making 5,000 gallons with coarse salt. But that's the most crucial thing to me, is a good quality salt.
Be sure to check in the loader bucket to make sure that it is clean of debris that can contaminate the salt. If there are big chunks of salt, you may need to crush them before dumping them into the brine maker. Carefully dump the salt into the salt mixing tank on the brine maker. Turn on all supply valves. The supply valve that carries water to the brine maker should be turned on to a predetermined mark that provides a restricted flow. Turn on the power switch and then turn the auto off shutdown switch to auto. Turn on the water. The water will shower the salt, becoming saturated as it filters through the salt and deposits into the bottom tank. You will need to adjust the shower if the spray doesn't cover the salt. Once the bottom tank fills, you will need to take a sample. The sample will be tested using a hydrometer. The type shown here is one that measures percent saturation. The hydrometer will float in the solution. Notice where the water line is on the hydrometer. That is where you take the reading. This hydrometer is reading 91% saturation. The stronger the solution, the higher the hydrometer will float. There are 2 types of hydrometers that you may have. The hydrometer on the left measures the salt saturation of 0 to 100%. The hydrometer on the right measures percent salt and measures 0 to 26%. This chart shows the different combinations of percent salt and percent saturation. Notice the highlighted numbers of 23 and 91 are on the same line. This is the optimum level of salt that the water will hold. If the hydrometer reading is too weak or too strong, it can be adjusted by either diluting the solution with water or recirculating the brine back through the salt. This brine maker automatically stores a saturated brine solution. The brine solution should be tested on every other storage tank transfer. Once all the brine has been pumped into the storage unit and you are finished making brine, it is time to clean out the residue in the hopper. Unhook all of the locks to the bottom tank. Pull the loader bucket under the tank. Dump the contents of the trash screen into the loader bucket. Pull the loader out from under the hopper and wash out the hopper and trash screen. Close the bottom tank and lock the trash screen. Lower the bottom tank and clean out the outlet screen and tank. All equipment used to make brine should be rinsed off with water to prevent corrosion. Raise the bottom tank again and unlock the trash screen. Then lower the bottom tank and trash screen to its storage position. The salt residue left in the lower tank on the trash screen can be mixed with salt sand in small quantities. All salt piles should be cleaned up and the ground and equipment should be washed down. Shut off all valves on the storage tank and to the pump. This includes tanks, valves, connection hoses, and pumps. Take off all hoses and store in an appropriate location. Put all valve plugs and caps back on fittings. Drain all fresh water or brine that is left in the pump or actuator valve on the hopper. The pump and actuator valve should be filled with antifreeze when not in use. This will help reduce the corrosion in the pump and will keep the actuator valve from freezing. Make sure that antifreeze gets into the pump by loosening the nut on the pump, and then you see antifreeze flowing out. The transfer and circulation pump needs to be run every 2 weeks, even in the off-season, to help prevent the motor from seizing and to circulate the brine in the storage tank. If the brine maker you have at your location is different than the one shown in this video, please see your supervisor for specific instructions.